So happy March 16th. It's Monday. It's Fireside Chat. I'm Pat Sloan and this is Crazy Quilty March. So challenge number 16. If you looked on your calendar, which you can download, I've got like a lot of notes on my calendar. Are you doing that? Are you writing stuff in? I'm writing it all down here. I don't know why I'm writing it down there. I need to write it at the top. So today is thread. So I thought I put out on my Facebook group and the Instagram earlier today that if you wanted to think about your thread, it's an easy one. Thread's an easy one. Just take a look at it. But I wanted to do on the Fireside Chat here just a little bit deeper dive into talk about how we look at our thread, because it was interesting. I was looking out on the Facebook group, which my community there, if you're not over there yet, go to Quilt Along with Pat Sloan and join in. But it's interesting because a lot of you have much older thread that you're, like the poly cottons and things that you got from your mom, things that you got from your grandma. I think that you might want to upgrade some of those, at least the ones from your grandma. It might be time to just like put them in a pretty jar so that you can just look at them. I don't know what the the durability is of them. If it's polyester, it's okay, but they might become brittle. I don't know. To me, I just don't want to do all that work and have it like thread start to break the first time you start to handle the quilt, and put some stress on those threads by using a quilt. But that's just me. You can decide what you want to do with old thread. I think it looked pretty cute in a jar, an old canning jar or some sort of bowl to look at. So thread, beautiful thread. I showed you a picture for today of my thread, one of my thread boxes. So this is the type of box that I use to keep my threads in, because I work with Orville Thread Company, and so I have a lot of thread, and I just brought the one box over. These containers, they stack, and so I have, I don't know, about 10 of these containers. I also have some deep ones, and I've got all the colors of the rainbow. So I just brought the green container in. So I keep in here the large spools, which also, if you've not collected variegated threads, oh my yummy. Look at that. I love variegated threads. And then there's also the smaller spools. So I've got, all the small spools in here and the big spools. So if your thread is really just tossed. I mean, some of you showed pictures and you're like, maybe I want to sort this out. And I'm like, yeah, it's kind of nice not to have everything spilling all over. I mean, we could do a couple of videos back. I did a talk about thread weights and things like that. But today it's more, I want you to take a look at what do you actually own? Are you a person who primarily just pieces and you keep, white, gray, black, just neutrals? Or are you someone that does applique or likes to machine quilt, and therefore you have a lot of colors? Just take a look at your buying habits. Do you have variegated? I mean, do you pick the variegated? Or here's another variegated. Look at that one. They're so fun to quilt with. They really are. Quilt and blanket stitch by machine. Machine quilting, blanket stitch by machine with the variegated. It's a lot of fun. So if you've gone and you looked at your thread and you're like, yeah, I know my thread. I know what I have. I like its organization. Then today for thread, why don't you take a picture and show it over there, or tell me about it if you're not on my community page. But also, think about, is that actually how you want to use your thread? Are you like, oh, maybe I want to have some colors. Maybe I want to branch out and do some of my own machine quilting, and I'd like to have some different colors to match the fabrics. Or maybe you've been wanting to try a different weight of thread. So you want to, think about your thread today and what you have and how you've gone about purchasing it and how you go about using it. And I think over time we'll do more specific things about thread. Like maybe I'll do one where we show, the different quilting or blanket stitching with the variegated, and one time might do different weights, or might do, we'll just walk through these different things. They're also hand threads, like for embroidery, for cross stitch, and I'd like to look at those and explore those a little bit too sometime. But there's two other things. Two. That's, if you like to do a lot of piecing, or you maybe quilt with a particular color a lot, then getting the cones is very cost effective. They're a little chunk of money, but it's not obnoxious. It's just, it is what it is. But if you get a cone, they last a really long time. I was going to say how many. So tell me how many. There's 4,700 meters. 4,700 meters, and this is a 40 weight cone because I was using it for some machine quilting, so that's a lot. You can do a lot. Now, I use the cones mostly on my tiara, which is sitting back there. That's a perfect spot for my tiara table. It just fits into the scheme of things back here. I have a very small space. So I like the cones on the tiara because the tiara it's a baby lock tiara. It's I call them a sit down long arm, although a lot of you may call them a mid arm, but it is not a long arm. You will push the fabric just like you do on your regular machine. It is not driving on a frame. You do not drive it on a frame. You sit at it and you push the fabric like you do on your regular machine. The thing is, it has a deep throat. It's got a 16-inch throat on that one, and it's fast. And the speed is super important if you want to, speed helps you regulate your stitch length a lot better when you're doing free motion. It also has a stitch regulator on it, and some of the newer models have fancier stitch regulators. This one has a device that you put on top which helps you regulate stitches. So the tiara is something I use off and on. It's only for machine quilting. It is a single purpose machine. It doesn't piece or do applique or anything else. It just does free motion. There's no feed dogs like you regularly have. Anything that you do with free motion quilting pretty much is what I would do on the tiara, particularly a little bit bigger piece. If it's just a small thing like a table runner, I'll probably just use the Solaris. But if it's a little bit bigger, I will go over there. And of course, it doesn't have a walking foot, so it can't do that kind of function. But when I'm using this cone, what I like is to have a cone holder. So this is the most gorgeous cone holder ever made. Isn't this beautiful? Let me put it down here a little bit so you can see a little easier. There we go. So this cone holder, and you might find them out, I'm going to link you to the one. So it's a single. Occasionally, I think they made them with like another branch, another flower on it. But the cone goes on here so that you can spool the thread off. And you can use this at your regular machine or on a bigger machine. But it is so pretty. And then you can put a second cone over there if you want to have two cones on here because maybe you're switching colors a lot, or you can just store your bobbins. That's what I do. These are my bobbins for the tiara. So they're a different bobbin than for the regular machine. So this is gorgeous, and they actually right now I saw they're on sale. Plus, I think they're over at I'll link you over there, and I think the store is also for Quilt Week this week is running an additional discount. So if you want a beautiful cone holder, and it's not that expensive, especially since you can get it on I think it's like a sale with a sale, so that's pretty good. So that's your thread. So your challenge, if you are watching this, is late in the day, unless you're in Australia, then you're doing today's challenge tomorrow, something like that. But even if you've not done it yet today, you can just go and look at your threads. Just go ahead and take a look at them. If they're a crazy hot mess, you've just been throwing stuff and like they're in multiple places and multiple drawers, make a decision to sort of pull it all together so that, so that you will have it easier to get, easier to find. All right. So I think that's a pretty simple one today. Just thinking about it. So I have going to show you what I've been working on, and then we're going to do a little Q&A because I asked a question out on my Facebook community if you had some questions, and there were a lot of fun questions. So way more than I can do today. So I'm going to do a little project review, show you what's been going on for the week, and then do some Q&A. Yay! And then tell you about Quilt Week at the end. Plus, there's a goodie bag at the end. So stay tuned. Stay tuned. I can't sing, by the way. So if I ever make any small attempt to singing, that's about it. I cannot sing. So our charity block is twice a month, 1st and 15th. So we just had the 15th, which are these blocks done in my Bonnie Lane. Whoops. And then there's actually 2 of these for the Bloomtopia. Yes. Aren't they fun? These are really cute. I love these little stars. Look how darling they are. They turned out super cute. And I have some of the colored threads that I use when I do the photography for these, for my, my post. I put them in these containers that I showed you yesterday on the Crazy Quilty March day. So that's one of the ways I can do that and get a lot of thread. See what I'm talking? Thread, thread, thread. So I can get a lot of thread in there. I can put more in there. So this lives up here on this back shelf. I'll put that back over there. And I have the embroidery. And I started, so if you're doing the, not embroidery, the cross stitch. So if you're also doing the cross stitch, which is part of Bloomtopia this year, I started this one. I'm trying to get way ahead so that I can go do another cross stitch at the same time. I tell you, it's a little difficult right now to fit it in. I'm trying. Also on the 15th, because why not? We have the 15th. Everything wants to be on the 15th. I have got the Orifil Designer of the Month block, and I'm going to show you mine and Carol's. So, yes, I have Carol's. I'll show you Carol's first, because the designers send me their blocks for the Designer of the Month, and then eventually I do a layout, and I assemble them, and then we have somebody quilt them. So I get their blocks. I don't always, depending on where they live and what their schedules are, they don't always come in time for me to show them right away, but I have it. And these are the box of thread. See, thread again. This is a thread day. I told you, thread, thread, thread. That's the Orifil Designer of the Month box was the Dolomite, which is the greens. So they were the shades of green, and the Dolomites are mountains. And so Carol did her really cool applique collage kind of technique, and I showed you some of how I approached it. And then if you could go over to her website via the Orifil blog, and you can go to the end of her post, and then she has her video down there which steps through doing this, which is fabulous. It's different than how I work, and so I wanted to try it. I didn't try everything. She put it on a stabilizer. I think I forgot to mention that. I just put it on white fabric because I didn't really have this product with me. And so I thought, well, I'll just try it on white fabric, because you're probably like me. You may be just going to do this once. And if you decide you really love it, then maybe you will invest in getting a roll. It probably doesn't cost that much, but maybe you'll get a roll of the stabilizer that she uses. So there's her block, which is fabulous. And then here is mine, which I did on white. See, I did mine on the white. And there it is. So I'm using a lot of different prints. When I showed this to her, she said it looked like the meadow had flowers, was all in bloom. And I thought that was pretty cool. But I wanted to simulate the colors that she had. So there's mine. And on my blog post, which I'll link you down below. Remember, right under this video are all the links. So I will link up to the post so that you can see it. And if you didn't see all the blocks together, I did one of all the Orifil blocks, a photo of all the Orifil blocks, and of my blocks together. And our last Wednesday's childhood games was, here we go, here's the block. Yes. So I love these this moth fabric. I just thought that was so cool. And when I did the sew and flip here, I also went ahead and did the triangles. So let me do this. I'll come down here a minute. So these were all from the sew and flip. So I just sewed them up as I did other things, and I made these half square triangles. And so, you know, I could do something with them. Like, I always think they turn out really cute when you do a star. You take all these, whoops, let me get them down here, and you just, I'll probably like cut a one of the moss and just do a mini star, like, and it can be like a mug rug. Everything can turn into a mug rug. Actually, my girlfriend made me a mug rug. The one I showed you was so cute. So there, like, you could just put the center could be the moss and then the corners. And I've made another little block. You could either go into your orphan block stuff, or you could just make it into a little mat, give it as a gift. I just think it's great to use those leftovers. Now, a couple people have asked me, when will I show the layout for the Childhood Dreams? And it will not be for a couple weeks because I need to focus on getting the book done. I'm sorry, I keep talking about it, but it's I have so many other things, and so it's just been taking me longer. I have pretty much two chapters left of the book to do, and so depending on how they go, that'd be a couple weeks, and then the layout for the Childhood Games will come out, because this takes me a little while to write up a layout and write the pattern and get it edited and be sure it's all proper. So I don't have that part done yet. I have it drawn. It's just putting it into a pattern takes a little bit of time, and so it'll be a couple weeks. So you'll just be making blocks, and you'll see the layout. It'll come. Oh, I found more thread talk. Did I tell you to subscribe yet? Did I do that? If not, down below here at YouTube, and when you hit the subscribe button, you'll see a bell. Click the bell. Then you get a notice anytime they come out. And I'm doing these, I'm going to start calling them dailies. The dailies. Isn't that like a news term or something, the dailies? I don't know what that is. Look. These are empty spools since the beginning of the year. The Vat Quarter Shop put out a challenge called, what'd she call it? I think she called it the sew down, you know, like a hoedown. They're from Texas. So I thought, I'm going to start keeping my spools and see how many I empty for the year. So this is what I have right now. And actually, I don't know, tell me if this is cheating. Tell me if you would do this. Tell me if you would do this and if it's cheating. Because I went in my basket of like the current spools that I grabbed from that are not in like those boxes, and I found spools like this that are, I mean, there, like it's practically empty. And I thought, well, I'm going to empty these. Is that cheating? I don't know. That might be called cheating. But I don't care. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to empty, because they take up space. That's my that's my theory, is that if I got these in my basket or whatever, there's not much on them. They're taking up space. So what I want to do is take and run them off on 2 bobbins so that they're done. Because what I find is that, I don't know about you, but occasionally when I get way down like this, they don't spool off when there's just a little bit of thread yet left. Sometimes the tension, particularly if I'm like free motion quilting, the tension changes because it doesn't have the same pull on it. And that's the same if you were running on a long arm. I learned that when I was doing long arm stuff, is that when the spools get low, sometimes your tension gets a little off because it doesn't have the same pull on it as it does when it's got more thread on there. So I just figured these really light ones that are all the way down to the bottom, they just need to be run off onto bobbins, and then I can use them up. That's my story. You know how it goes. So I printed, you were amazing with the questions, just amazing. So I have got questions, and I thought we would just sit back here for a moment and I would answer them. Oh, for those of you who want to see the heart quilt, I put it back up on the wall right now. I had to take my book stuff off the wall, and everything's hidden so you can't see it. But there's the heart quilt. And the heart block is from my Splendid Sampler 1 book with Jane Davidson, our book. And I will link you to that because the book's on sale right now. Yay. And you can get it. So, questions. You are... The first one that got all of this started was from Sheila. Sheila McCoy Bozer. So Sheila said, she asked a question in the group, and she said, maybe for the fireside chat, she wanted to know, when did you first realize you made it big in the quilting industry? Was it the first pattern that got published, the first book that you wrote, the first article written about you? So that really got me thinking, Sheila, as I think I told you, because when I started this business, I started a business. I didn't start something to become, big. I started a business because I always wanted to own my own business, and I didn't want to work for somebody else. So what I needed to do was find customers. So the question when you ask could be sort of like asking your local shop owner, when did you know you became big in the industry? Well, it's like you own a store. Like for me, I own a business. But I really was thinking about it. And then what was so funny is my friend Roseanne Kermes jumped in on this and said that, she had a shop for many, many years and was using my patterns and following the things in the magazine that I did and using these projects in her store. And what happened is one year at the trade show we have booths. You've seen people show pictures of those booths. And the one year, a couple years in, Roseanne came bubbling into my booth telling me this and telling me that about all these different things she was doing in her store. And that was probably about the time that I realized that, I am selling this stuff as a business to shops, to quilters, and they're all across the world. But here it was the first time that I sort of met somebody in person that I didn't know I was going to meet. If that makes sense. It isn't like I was booked to come teach someplace. So I knew I was going to meet those people. Those people knew I was coming. And it's a different experience. And all of a sudden standing there and having somebody come in and talk to you about how they're following your things and doing them in their store. And it was like, okay, I think this is working. And that's how my brain as a businesswoman is. My businesswoman brain is like wonderful. I have got people following my things that I don't know them personally. Now I do. Roseanne's a good friend of mine. You've listened to her on my podcast for years. We've been buddies. So that would be, I think, when I realized that there were people I'd never even heard of who had bought my things and were working with them, that I felt like, okay, my business can work. And that's really my whole goal of doing this, was to have a business, to support my family and so we didn't have to go work in offices. We work for ourselves. And that was the goal of what I do. So that was kind of fun. It was a couple of years in. Nobody ever is famous after their first pattern. I don't think. It's pretty impossible. Back when I started, the internet didn't exist at all, really. So you depended on things getting out there in other ways, your information to companies, mailings, getting in the magazine, that kind of a stuff. So it was a different world. Nowadays, there's so much stuff online. The information is massive. So in order to get seen and heard, it's equally hard. It's no harder than when I had to do a mailing to a shop. It's the same difficulty. So it's just, what's different now is I can connect with all of you. I can connect with you so much easier, and there's so many more of you online than when I started. Because I had online communities before, the Facebook one. And even now, a lot of you are not on Facebook. Some of you are on Instagram. Some of you are on neither. You just follow me here on YouTube or over at my blog, which is wonderful. So I thought I have to be everywhere. So that was the long answer to Sheila's question. There were so many awesome questions. What I decided to do, I think I said earlier, was that I will answer a couple now, and then I will start answering them on the dailies, on the daily challenges here in March. And then if we keep having questions, I'll just keep doing them in April. I think that'd be fun. So here, so I had to mark off that I did this. Otherwise, I'll be answering it again and boring you to death. So somebody else, let's see, Sharon asked, how big is my studio? So the studio, the physical space is 12 by 16. I have only one solid wall, which is that one. Every other wall in here has either a door, a window, a fireplace, or a sliding glass door. So the only wall is there on the end that's solid. The room is vaulted. I'll take you up, because this room was built with the house. We had the house built, and it came with the house. It's the family room. So when I'm standing on the other side behind the glow quilt over here, when I'm standing over there, that is in front of the fireplace. And then this way you can see out to my kitchen, which also has a, so in the hallway out to the front door. And then right over here is the sliding glass doors. And you've seen me stand in front of the white blinds sometimes, which does not make a very nice backdrop. But there's almost that whole end of the room is not usable. So even though it's 12 by 19, what do I say, 12 by 16, it is not like a bedroom where there might be just a couple of windows. I have very little wall space to work with. So this big table in the center of the room, and then the stuff that's why everything's lined up along the back side there, because I only have then the one other cabinet. So I have storage in other parts of the house because like the pantry and the dining room, and so we have we have master and two small bedrooms. One is Greg's office, and the other is basically the storage room. No basement. There's no basement here. So that's kind of the layout of my place. Sometime I'll have to do another little walkthrough of the room. It doesn't take long. Let me do one more question. Let's see. Okay, so let's do this one. This is kind of a fun one. All right, we won't do that one. I should have marked these in advance, right? Yeah. So Karen wanted to know, she goes, I often wonder how you keep your business separate from your personal life, and if it ever gets hard to separate the two since you work from home. She goes, I guess it's about balance. It's like, well, my husband works with me, so we don't have children, and so the personal side is very much the same as the business side. I really don't. They're really not separate. All of my friends are quilters, pretty much. We have friends, in the neighbors and things like that we talk to, but it isn't like we have, these big commitments to do things with them, where we're going, we're not like camping or doing things like that. And because it's a small business and we work a lot of hours right now, and for quite a few years, it's pretty much I work all the time, and then I just take short periods of time off, which I'm fine. That's just the way it is. If you talk to many small business owners, they work a lot of hours, and they and all the time. So I don't really find a problem when I go with my family. Of course, I'm not talking about my quilting if I'm hanging out with them, or if I'm with my non-quilting friends, whatever we're doing, we're doing that. So it's when I'm doing that thing, I do that thing. Otherwise, I'm doing my business stuff, doing stuff to run, the communities, doing stuff to write stuff, doing stuff to make stuff and organize. So it's all sort of just one big life. I don't really see any need to make separate. And that works for me, and it works for Greg. And we've been doing it a lot of years, 20 years full time. And so there we go. And we thank you. We thank you for supporting our small, teeny tiny micro business, just the two of us. So remember, anytime you use my links, that supports us, because it doesn't cost you anything to do that, but we receive some small percentage off of any sales that you do with our links. So you can always find the shopping page at any of my websites. So thank you. Who asked that one again? Karen. Thank you, Karen. So I did that one. There's a bunch of other ones on there, and I will be answering them and going back to that page. And if you have a question for me here on YouTube or Instagram or my blog where you're watching this, just leave it down in the comments, and I'll try to not miss it. Or you can just email me, pat@patsloan.com, and I will add it to the list. So I'll keep a list, and I'll just start every day with adding some stuff in. Maybe not every day, but you know, a lot of the day. There's a lot of questions that came this time. Okay, this is a casual. Just catch up, hang out. I know that you all are sewing at home now. This is our time. What I saw, like a meme that said, "We've been preparing for this day." The day that you have to stay home and sew. That's, yes. like we're doing the happy dance, you know, like, oh my goodness. People who don't know what to do with themselves at home, we just don't understand that, do we? We all know what to do when we're home. We sew. So now I have the goodie bag from last week, and I have the winner, and then I'll show you the goodie bag for this week. So last week we had the sewing fabric and some goodies in there. This is really, really cute fabric. So I tried to write down, I got the name, and this is for Annette Ackley. And yay, Annette, yay! Send off the balloons. So I will email you also. But Annette said the question last week was, have you been following my Crazy Quilting March? You know, how long, how many days are you keeping up? You know, just give me your status. Because I'm trying to make some of these be really quick. So, you know, not every day is something going to take you very long to do. And they shouldn't ever take any very long. But anyways, Annette said that she has followed every day, and she got herself a planner, and she was writing in the planner, which I thought, yes, that's awesome. And she also said that she has gotten more done and been more motivated this year than she's ever been. So I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled. Like, how many more of you is that happening for? That because of the challenges every day, if you're reading them and then actually doing them, do you feel that it's moving you forward? Do you feel motivated? Yeah, I hope so. That was kind of the goal. And I just have found it really fun to do, because they're just like 10 minutes, you know, like 10-minute chat every day. I'm not sure, you know, I try to tape it the day before and then run it first thing in the morning, because I tell you what, I am not up at 7 a.m. taping that thing. No. No. Do it the day before. If it's not that there's 7 a.m., that probably means I didn't do it yet. Okay, so I have a goodie bag for today. Guess what? It has thread in it, because it's thread day. It's thread day at Crazy Quilting March. And I've got one of these awesome guides from my friend Celine. These perfect guides for getting your 1/4-inch seams, for the little Olfa rotary cutter pin, and a super cute little mat from Olfa, and the cutter. These cutters are so cool. They were so generous. They gave me a whole bunch of them to give away. And then this winner gets this awesome fabric bundle. These are fat quarters of aqua prints. So there's a whole range from light to dark, just like I talked about in the other day. So if you're one of the people that has never bought a bundle like that, then you might actually, this goodie bag might go to you. So this time, remember, you're answering over at my website, not at Facebook, not at YouTube. Go over to my website, and the question is, since right now a lot of us are not traveling, we're home for a few weeks, we can think about things, right? You have a little bit more time. Well, we have more time to sew, but also you might be thinking about, well, where might you, I thought, if I was going to plan, you know, like if it was a dead part of winter and I was going to be doing some planning, I would like to plan a quilty adventure. So what would be your ideal, here's the question, what would be your ideal quilty adventure? You know, would you be going with your girlfriends to for a trip to a museum? Would you be sewing for a week locked up with a maid and a cook and your food brought to you? Would you just be by yourself? Would you like, are you around people all the time and you just are like, I just need a week in my studio with nobody? Do you just have one best friend and the two of you would go on a shop hop across the country? You know, what would be your ideal quilty getaway? All right. It's the 16th. Tomorrow's St. Patrick's Day. I have a fun little mini project for tomorrow as our challenge. Yeah. So, I love you. Thank you for being part of my community, and help each other out. Stay good, and I will see you online.